What is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Kingler? We are on Loreley. Now, if we look at Kingler's stats, its attack is very good, its defense is not too bad, and its speed is alright. Special defense is abysmal. In Gen 1, special defense and special attack are the same stats, so they're both bad. Which is a little unfortunate because we're not going to get our stab water moves a whole lot in this run. But it does know Swords Dance, which is great. Loreley has what we call quote-unquote good AI. So it's never going to use Aurora Beam, and Takedown doesn't do that much to us. So Dugong is pretty free, which is pretty nice because we get a setup. So this was one of my early runs, and I wanted to see what would Body Slam do. I actually live streamed this one, if you caught me in the live. I had to end it because you'll see why at the end. But I just wanted to see what would happen, and I ended up getting it to just above half, so I knew Hyper Beam would take it out, so I went for that. Now, something you'll notice was the Dugong used Growl on me. That allows me to use an extra Swords Dance, which is nice for the badge boost glitch here. Or not really a glitch, but the badge boost mechanic, if you will. I then start seeing what am I going to do about Slowbro here. It's going for withdrawal, which is not ideal, but it's also not the worst thing to happen. Get a critical hit. So now Slowbro goes for Growl, which is nice because I could use a Swords Dance. And I'm doing this because I want to make sure I outspeed the Jinx. And since I leveled up after those other Swords Dances, I need more speed again. So it was actually pretty nice that those things happen. So then I'm going to go ahead and just go for Hyper Beam on the Jinx because its defense is not very good. And we don't miss. And then let's see, do we one hit? And we do. So at this point, I probably should have just tried to go for Guillotine on the Lapras, but I wanted to see what would happen. I'm going to be covering up some of the screen here in a minute, so I apologize for that. I got a phone call mid-run. That's why I had to end the live anyway. But basically what happened was the Lapras got paralyzed from my Body Slam. I went ahead and used Body Slam, got a critical. So now we're both paralyzed, and it has just a little bit of health left. And I am also confused, so I'm pretty much just hoping to not be paralyzed and get a hit. I don't think I can take a Hydro Pump from it, maybe a Body Slam, but we'd have to watch out for a crit. But we go first, no paralyzed, get through confusion, so there we go, that is Loreley. So Kingler's a pretty interesting run, so we'll see what happens here. But at such a low level, it's looking promising. Don't forget to drop some comments. So the question I ask you is, what is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Kingler? We are on to Bruno. So a little refreshing in this run, we are not using Mimic up to this point, which is nice. And Onix has some pretty terrible moves. I think even Rock Throw doesn't do that much against us. So we are pretty safe to set up our Swords Dance here. Even though our special attack is abysmal, Onix has very bad special as well. So we are going to go ahead and use a special move that happens to be super effective, and we're going to take out the Onix. Now at this point, with our incredible attack, our Swords Dance boost, and Hyper Beam being a very strong move, we are just going to go ahead and spam that through the fighting Pokemon. Remember in Gen 1, when Hyper Beam knocks out an opponent, it does not need to recharge, or you don't need to recharge, so it's pretty sweet. Out comes Onix, so we go ahead and just switch to Ice Beam. X Defend does not really matter. I saw online that there's these ROM hacks, and I was like, wouldn't it be fun to make one where you don't change anything, but Bruno's just good? Just give him better Pokemon, better moves. But anyway, so then we go ahead, we take out Bruno. That's all there was to it. So the question I ask you is, what is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Kingler? We are on to Agatha. So it seems like a common theme with Agatha is Pokemon that have poor move pools. Where Kingler is not as bad as some, the water and ice moves it does learn can hardly be used just because of how poor the special is. Now there are some instances where they are valuable if they're super effective, but other than that, we're still kind of stuck to the same strategy. Another thing that was really awful for Kingler is its speed. It's not awful, but compared to Gengar, it is very bad. And so as we know, the Agatha lottery, if you will, if you watch J Rose 11, he kind of coined that phrase. It really is just that, because Agatha moves so randomly that I'm sure you could beat it with a level 5 Pokemon, but the amount of luck it would take would be insane. So what I'm saying here is that Kingler had to get all the way up to level 64, so I would even have a chance at this thing. When Kingler is slower than Agatha's Pokemon, it gives her that many more opportunities to use Nightshade or Hypnosis or Confuse Ray. And what we want to do is minimize those opportunities as much as possible. Now, it was a thought of mine to try maybe Blizzard and Rest, try to go for some freeze situations. And that's something I may come back to, but I was already too deep into the run, so we didn't end up doing that. I think the next Pokemon I do for our sanity is going to be something that can just sweep Agatha. But for the time being, it's pretty unfortunate because Kingler was doing really well against Loralee and Bruno. But unfortunately, we did have to get up to level 64. We still are in the world record range here, so not too bad. We should be okay. And I get pretty lucky here at the end. We just don't want Gengar to do anything terrible to us. It goes for Confuse Ray, which is not ideal, but we get lucky. There we go. That is Agatha down. So the question I ask you is, what is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Kingler? We are on to Lance. Alright, so we are going to use a couple Swords Dance here. There's not a whole lot the Gyarados can do to us. Us being level 64, we're in a pretty good spot. I think I get a little desensitized in these runs. I think if you told a friend who played this game when they were younger, hey, this guy beat the Elite Four with the level 64 Kingler, I think they'd be like, whoa, that's pretty cool, but, we're over here, shooting for something a little better, but that's alright. Kingler's doing great. Kingler's doing well. So Kingler just grew to level 65 there. If I was having trouble with Lance, I just would have used a rare candy before, so I would not level up mid-battle, because when you level up, you lose your badge boost. And I am going to want that speed for Aerodactyl, but it's no big deal. There's not a whole lot. We did miss our Blizzard there, but even if it would have used Hyper Beam, I don't think it would have really mattered too much. So there we go. There's our Blizzard. We are a little low. We don't love to see that. And the Aerodactyl comes out and we go for Blizzard. It goes for Supersonic. It's probably one of the worst things it could do. But we get through the confusion and we go ahead and use Blizzard. Just barely. So that was a little unfortunate. So I just wanted to see what Hyper Beam would do. We kind of figured there would be a potion there. This was also the first attempt at Lance, so I didn't really know what was going on. And then Hyper Beam did knock it out, so that would be the strat moving forward. And then we have Dragonite, and we go ahead and use Blizzard. It is 2 times super effective, so we're good to go there. Critical hit, look at us go. So the question I ask you is, what is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Kingler? We are on to Blue. So Kingler stacks up pretty good against Blue's team. We have pretty good coverage for anything we need to deal with. So the Pidgeot can't do a whole lot to us, so we go ahead and go for a Swords Dance. It does go for Sky Attack. We do not want to see what will happen, so we go ahead and go for Blizzard here. The Blizzard connects, and that is going to take out the Pidgeot. Now the Alakazam, we don't want to mess with. We have pretty low special, so we're going to just go ahead and go for the Hyper Beam. We've got low special, but it has low defense, so we go ahead and we knock that out. And then out comes the Rhydon. The Rhydon really can't do a whole lot to us. Its move pool is pretty weak. I don't know why it has Leer and Tail Whip, but good for it. So we're going to take that as an opportunity to just raise our attack here, now that we have no threats on the table. And then we do have Blizzard. Also, just a side note, Horn Drill doesn't work on us, so we don't need to worry about that hitting us. Blizzard takes it out. Then we have Arcanine. We have that great attack stat with 3 Swords Dance out, so we are not concerned about an Arcanine. The Executor was probably one of the 2 hard ones that I didn't want to have to deal with too much, but we did have Blizzard, but it has pretty okay special, so we'll see what happens there. Critical hit, which was nice. It gets a critical on its barrage, but it's really not doing anything to us. Something to note too is I haven't used Guillotine this whole entire run, so I was like, I probably didn't need to use Guillotine, but I was like, I gotta use Guillotine for the end here. So we are just gonna go until we get Guillotine, because there's really nothing that the Blastoise is gonna do to us here. So we get the Guillotine. There we go, level 66. That's a world record. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the support. So the question I ask you is,